Well, thank you, man. Thank you for joining me. Daniel Nguyen, right?
Win, yes.
Yeah, Nguyen.
Yes. Pleasure.
It is silent.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, I was trying to think. So we met through Sub Two, right?
Yep, yep,
So I joined that I think a little over a year ago. I joined. You get to join a couple of different groups, and one was the Tennessee Kentucky group, which you're the leader of.
yep.
Yep. And how long have you been the leader of that?
So it started off being Natasha Turner. Shout out Natasha. She was leader for quite some time, and then after she sort of, started her Keegley franchise, that took a lot of her time away from the or just being able to lead the accountability group, and so she reached out to me since she saw that I was there, basically every week, and wanted to see if I was up for the job. And of course I was, right? And so since then, I sort of just I host the meetings every week. I think in terms of timeline, I would say Natasha's probably been the leader for a couple of months, ever since Pace, started the accountability groups, and then after that, I took over. I don't know, 2, 3 months, something like that.
So you were in it pretty early then. You were part of the Sub Two community pretty early on for them in order to be kind of be part of that group. If you were there, because I don't even know how they originally chose them. Do you have any idea how they originally kind of set that standard of like, hey, we need these people? I'm sure they all joined at first to learn, and then they quickly grew and knew they had to get into regions.
Yes, I don't, man. It's been so long. I don't quite
That's a good
remember.
problem.
Yeah, I I don't remember the sort of inception of these accountability groups, but I know that once Pace started implementing that, Natasha was someone who, we sort of. I mean, Natasha gets along well with everyone, right? I mean, you've spoken with her, right? And
Yep.
she's very knowledgeable,
And friendly.
and yes, very friendly, very loving,
Yep.
amazing person. And so, yeah, started out with her being the leader, but again, the Keegley franchise thing took up a lot of her time, and so she sort of passed on that role to me. And now, there's actually a couple of us who are sort of considered leaders or co-leaders. I would say DJ's considered a co-leader. I would consider myself just a co-leader along with Natasha. So we sort of three are trying to lead this accountability group and, you know, um, navigate it and just point people in the right direction. So it's a
Right.
team effort.
That's good to have people to bounce ideas off of and not be completely in charge of it yourself and be able to delegate things and say, hey, I can take this and you can take that. I think that helps you, and it shows in the group. I think it's a great group. It's one of the smaller groups for sure, but I think
Yes.
it's a great solid group that for the Sub Two group. How did you find Sub Two originally? Like, tell me this: when did you first learn about Sub Two and that possibility?
Oh man. So I'll go back a little bit further. So first heard about the term wholesaling. It was actually at the gym in the sauna, just talking to a random guy that I met there. Um, I didn't really pay attention to it much. I would say a month or two later, I started thinking about real estate wholesaling, looked up some terms, found um, Max Maxwell and eventually Steve Trang, and watched uh, the podcast with Pace on, right, with Steve. Um, and I was like, wow, this guy makes a lot of sense. I think what he's saying, um, it's something that I resonated with, and so I had attended the 16-hour live that Pace did,
Cool.
for the very
Yeah.
first time, and then I was like, wow, this guy Pace, he's just literally standing in front of a camera, preaching to the choir and answering questions and providing, just so much value for 16 hours straight. So I can only imagine like how much more awesome it would be actually inside the mentorship. So didn't really debate it for that long. Maybe I was like thinking about it for a week or so, and then I was like, you know what? I think I vibe really strong with what Pace is saying. So I just made the jump and joined.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, so had you done any real estate prior to joining then?
No, that was my first time hearing about creative financing. Um, I, very new to the term wholesaling at that point, had done zero deals. I mean, I think the time frame from me learning or first hearing the word wholesaling to me joining Sub 2 was a matter of, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 months, something like
Dude,
that.
that gets me so excited. I don't even know why, but that
Yeah.
gets me so excited. Like, to know that, that struck such a nerve or a chord with you that you were like, yep, this is
This is
exactly
it.
what I'm going to try to do. And
Yeah.
wow, I mean, knowing a little bit of your story already, like you really went full force, and that's pretty amazing. So, um, then you kind of join. You're a part of it. Are you learning pretty quick? Like, is did the course kind of give you what you needed? And I'm not trying to make this a sub two thing, but it is the kind of the start of your journey, and it really grabbed you from the get go and pushed you to who you are today. So,
Yeah.
did you dive into the material, or did you kind of seek something else out as well?
I dove
That makes sense.
straight. Yeah, I dove straight into the material. I mean, that was the only actual. I mean, of course, there's like YouTube University and stuff like that, but I mean, like I paid for a course, a mentorship, and so I'm gonna take advantage of what this mentorship has to offer, right, in terms of the course material and stuff. So I dove straight into the education. Um, and so, I mean, yeah, there I was sort of tunnel visioning this all of this content, and that was it. I didn't pay attention to any other wholesaler on YouTube or whatever. It was just this course material, and of course, as you know, all the Zooms
Yep.
that Pace have and what he sort of holds and all the special guests and stuff, super valuable. And so I just all of my time was in that.
That's awesome. Wow. So then how long? Okay. Obviously you heard about it and you said, okay, I want to do this, but you had to think about like, what could real estate provide me that I'm actually looking for, right? The course was the knowledge, but real estate was the tool. But what made you pick up real estate as a tool? Like, what were you trying to solve in your life?
Oh man, I mean, I guess, financial freedom, financial independence is a huge thing, right? Sort
Were
of
you
the
struggling with that beforehand? Or you just had like the long-term thought process of trying to get there someday?
yeah, it's more so the long-term thought process of getting there. I mean, keep in mind that at this time I had probably graduated from college maybe a year or 2 years at most. And so I really didn't know what I wanted to do um, after college, uh, and stumbled upon, I mean, the original plan was to go to pharmacy school, right? Be a pharmacist for the rest of my life. I worked in a pharmacy for a couple of months, right? Figured that, excuse me, ooh, um,
Worries.
figured that that was not the path for me. And then started looking into stocks, crypto, real estate, and real estate was the only thing that sort of stuck around after all of that time. And so, I figured I don't want to work for the man for 60 years then retire. I think real estate is the path to financial freedom and financial independence, and sort of providing generational wealth, and sort of providing for my family. And so, um, yeah, it just sort of stuck with me. Um, so here we are. Yeah.
Perfect. So what are you focusing on now? What's kind of your main go-to? Is it flipping? Is it I know I think do you have an Airbnb?
No Airbnbs yet.
So is it flipping? Is it buy and hold? Kind of what have you done lately, and what is it that you're trying to focus on?
Um, Flips are the name of the game right now. Um, I recently partnered up with DJ for the side of the flips, who you do know.
Yep.
Um, And so since he's a sort of he's a contractor by trade, and that's sort of his specialty, right? Rehab, renovation, things along those lines. um, that's what we want to do because that's what he's really good at. And, I'm sort of, bringing leads to the table, and he basically converts them and, figures out the scope of work and the timeline and all that stuff. So that is the name of the game as of now.
Got it. And have you got your first flip yet? Have you done one yet?
Yes, absolutely. So DJ and I, we haven't been partners for too long. I would say going on month number 5, and the first month or two was, really just us trying to figure each other out.
Sure.
We got our first project under contract just in mid-October. Finished the repairs in a month or so and listed it immediately. Got an offer accepted over our asking price, and we're actually set to close second week of February. There were some delays and some learning curves there with an FHA loan and not owning the property under a certain amount of time. That's another conversation to have, but this is going to be our first flip, first successful flip. We're going to make a little bit of cash, and it was a great learning experience.
It's on to the next then, right?
Yes, on to the next.
Awesome. Well, I know that I every time we speak during the accountability calls, I always enjoy it. We didn't cover a lot because we could cover so much with you. I mean, even the amount of time you've been in it, it's unbelievable what you've been able to accomplish. So I appreciate you coming on. And how can anybody reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, I would say the best way to reach out to me, 2 ways. First is through the first and the best way is, I would say, through Instagram. So Dan_invests. Okay, that's my handle. Second way is just through email, investments.dan@gmail.com. And I'm also on like LinkedIn. So if you search up my name, you'll find me.
Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Things I want to get into, like serious stuff. So I know you guys have done some flips now, but I want to get a little bit into one of my topics that I've been struggling with lately, like is the integrator versus visionary, right? So what do you consider yourself right now? Is it the integrator or the visionary?
I would say that I definitely lean heavily on the integrator side. I may have some visionary tendencies, but for the most part, I am an integrator.
What do you think is easier, being an integrator, finding a visionary, being a visionary, and finding an integrator to partner up with?
Oh man, I think being an integrator and finding a visionary is easier. And I am, of course, speaking from a bias, right? It was very easy for me to find my visionary partners, right? I've been in a couple of partnerships, and I've always been the person to sort of initiate and reach out and, see if they would be open to something like this. So, of course, I'm a little biased, but I think it's easier for an integrator to find a visionary.
It's funny because I wonder if it's not because it's easier, but because visionaries think they can do it all. If that makes sense. Like they don't know what they don't know, right? And they're kind of not much of a planner in a way at times, right? And so I wonder if that feeds into why you don't see the visionaries being like, I need someone in my life that can integrate my business. I mean, we get, I know that you and I see those on Facebook and in Discord all the time through our group of people talking about partnering up and squatting up, but you don't really see someone be like, I need an integrator in my life. I see more integrators asking for visionaries. Do you see that as well? Or what do you think?
I would say so. Yeah. At least from, within sub 2, I'm seeing a lot more integrators want to, reach out to, visionary or individuals that are visionaries and sort of partner up with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's you definitely lean more integrator. And so
100%.
how does that, so how do you communicate then with a good visionary? Or, well, first off, what are you looking for in a visionary partner? Like, what do they actually bring to the table for you?
Yes. So I think as an integrator, I can get caught up in the details very easily. I can go down rabbit holes like it's nobody's business. I think having a visionary that is very big picture, um, and just very willing to connect with others. Um, when it comes to the so I guess Pace talks about the sort of, what does he call it? It's like there's acquisitions, dispositions. There's like this whole
Yeah.
thing of how this real
Right.
estate business should be. And I think having someone who's very focused on the relationship building when it comes to sellers and even private money lenders, for example, is a huge thing. So I
Right.
would say that the biggest thing, excuse me, that I look for in a partner in general,
Mm,
of course, a visionary to uh, to help with where I'm weak at, right? They have a skill set that I don't. So that's number one. Number two is I strongly believe that their morals and values should line up with yours, right? Everyone
hmm
everyone wants to be successful in this business, right? Or just any business. But how you do it is just as important, if not even more important. So
I couldn't agree more. I mean, not that I'm, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've had some partnerships and, go sideways, and we're still friends with them, right? Like, at least I am. They can go really bad sometimes, but I'm still friendly with those people. I just know that you got to have those values for sure, alignment, and so how do you
yes,
suss that out?
absolutely.
Yeah, how do you suss that out early on?
Um, Man, it's
If we all knew we would all have the perfect partnership, right? Like, from
yes,
the get go.
it's not simple. You definitely want to spend as much time as you can with them, have that initial conversation, really talk about what your values and morals are and what sort of your upfront expectations are. Um, but I think a lot of that discovery happens once you give the partnership a try. um, right? Uh,
Hmm.
a lot of people say you want to date, quote unquote, date your counterpart or your
Sure.
partner, and just really figure out um, what makes each other tick, and if your skill set can sort of complement each other. So, kind of sort of got to get into that partnership and figure out as you go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a little trial and error. I've done something similar recently. We're running through it together as a partnership, but we haven't made any solid connecting factors. Like, we haven't developed an LLC that is both ours. We're keeping it very simple and more of a JV or joint venture oriented, where we could just break it off in any minute and kind of go our separate ways. But so far, so good. So,
Yeah.
that's how we did it. Is that something that you've done similarly, or did you go straight into it? You know what? Let's just get an LLC and then see what happens.
I think we're
That's the
definitely taking
integrator in
our
you, isn't
Yes,
it?
that's what I want to do, but I think we're going to end up, well, what we've done so far is we've been taking it slower on the entity formation part, and so first flip we did was actually out of um, my LLC, right?
Hmm.
One that I am personally managing, and so there is a factor of trust there that we have with one
For
another,
sure.
and then so this next project that we're working on is going to be under DJ's LLC. And so
Hmm.
um, we're just going to try each other out, continue to see if we can do a couple of, projects together. And if it works, then we'll start sort of forming our entities and, having them together.
Sure. That's exactly how we're kind of approaching it. I think that's a good way. I mean, you know, the worst case scenario, right? Like, Daniel, you do the first flip in your LLC and you keep all the profit and don't give him anything, and he wastes
Right.
a little bit of time, some energy for sure, hopefully not much capital. And he learned that you're not the right person, but obviously that's not going to happen. You're going to
Right.
show that, hey, we're going to do it together as long as we, are open and honest and know exactly what the financials look like. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. So flipping, is buy and hold in your future then as well? Or what's kind of what's your cash flow strategy? Like where do you want to get with that?
So here's our plan. Our plan is to amass capital through fixing and flipping and maybe a little bit of wholesaling, and then use that capital uh, to do creative buy and holds. So right now we're in the capital building phase.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Creative buy and hold. So if anybody doesn't know that, creative could mean a lot of things. It could mean buying on sub two. It could mean buying on owner financing. It could be using a novation agreement. Lots of creative ways to use other people's credit and money as well, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Could be a combination of subject to and seller finance.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a hybrid and that was my very first sub two deal was a hybrid deal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really sub two because I just had him quit claim uh, the property to me. I did it all wrong. I've always said that before. First sub two, I did completely wrong. I wrote I paid him out on his equity, basically on a contract that I created on a month,
Mhm.
like basically a payment schedule. And we quit claim the property to me. And then I continued to pay his mortgage moving forward. So luckily it turned out and we made money on that property, but that's how I did it. I wouldn't recommend anybody doing that. So that leads me to this question. What's better to have on hand, cash or credit? Having a lot of cash at your fingertips or having a lot of credit at your fingertips?
Oh man. This is a great question. I would say, I mean, it probably wouldn't be fair for me to say both. um, I do
Right.
think both sort of has its place um, in business, right? I mean, you want to be able to have the cash on hand in case a transaction needs to be done super quickly, or I think having the business credit, for example, to go qualify for some of these larger loans or um, things like that is super helpful as well. I mean, I'm not super familiar with business credit, and I know others have, really sort of maximized their business credit to be able to get like business credit lines and stuff like that. So that's sort of another um, form of capital or access to capital that you could use. Um, I don't know. I want to say both, but that's probably. I mean, I don't know. I would say both is just as important. And I know that's sort of cheating my way out of an answer, but that's what I truly think.
You know why I think that, like, so I've asked that question a couple of times now, and I'm starting to think that that question is so hard because it's a great problem to have. It's like, you know, can you really go wrong with either one? Probably not, right? Like you could use both and both are a great problem to have. And having that like, oh crap, like if I had to choose between those two, which one do I really like? I don't know. It's a tough question. So I'm glad you're answering it, not me today. So there you go. Although I did put this online, I put that question online a while back in my Instagram. It's I'm gonna pull it up real quick. It's not, I didn't really ask that question per se. It was more about here it is. So the thing I put is be the person. So here's the thing that I posted: be the person with 100K in the bank and not a 5K car, not the person with a 5K in the bank in a 100K car. So my thought was like, okay, but if I had 100,000 in the bank, literally in the bank, inflation in the month of November was 6.8%, right? So that's a lot of money that you're going to be losing every like yearly on a yearly basis if inflation tends to stay that way. So then the question became, okay, what's more interesting to have available to you as an investor? Is it cash or is it credit? And I think it matters in that at least specifically right now on whether or not cash or credit's important. And if you can get a 3% loan in credit, I mean, you're beating inflation at that point. So it's an interesting thought process. At least I wanted to ask you. Tell me about this will be one of the kind of more personal things, I guess. Tell me about NAAP.
Oh yes. So NAP, also known as the National um, Asian American Association of Professionals. It is a nonprofit organization that is nationwide in the U.S. And so I am part of the Tennessee chapter, and we're sort of relaunching. Well, when I was sort of brought onto the team over a year ago, our plan was to do an official relaunch of this chapter, and we have done so since then. It was actually pretty recent. We had an in-person event where we sort of got to meet a bunch of the sponsors and a bunch of other folks who are interested in the organization and the cause. And so basically, it is a nonprofit organization that links the Asian American community to the local community. So, our goal is to sort of have those two communities sort of be able to connect with one another more seamlessly, as well as doing volunteering and food drives and toys for tots and things along those lines. So I think this sort of organization is definitely needed within our area. There's not very many nonprofits that have this mission or this cause, at least that I'm familiar with in the Middle Tennessee area. And
How
so,
did you get involved with them?
yeah, funny story. So I, excuse me, I got a random message off of LinkedIn, and
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you
from
got a cold text.
yeah, man, I got a random message on LinkedIn and was like, hey, we're a part of this organization trying to relaunch the Tennessee chapter. Is this something you'd be interested in? And it just seemed appealing to me. And so I met up for lunch with a couple of the people who were trying to get this chapter, restarted. And I really enjoyed what they had to say and their vision and the mission that they shared with me. And so I was like, yeah, let's give this a shot. If you need someone to sort of join and have like a certain responsibility in order to make this work, I want to be part of it. So
That's awesome, man. Well,
yeah.
congrats on that. I think that's cool to be a part of, and obviously it's you think it's important for your area. I think that's great. So how do you you still have a W-2 job, like an actual full-time job?
I don't.
Because you're
No.
full-time real estate now.
Yes. Yeah.
Give you a clap for that and hit the
Thank
mic
you.
at the same time. That's awesome, man. When did you switch, or when did you quit your full-time job? Because I think I was still here when you were in your full-time job, right? Or in part of the sub two community, or did you already quit?
I had already quit. So
Oh, nice.
before I joined Sub 2, I had already quit my W-2 because I did not see myself sort of doing that. So right out of college, I took a little bit of a break, did a little bit of traveling and stuff like that. And then I got my very first job out of college as a waiter. And I sort of
That's awesome.
had a buddy who worked at the restaurant, and he was able to introduce me to the owners. I got a job there, worked there for a couple of months, and I ended up finding another job. So I worked two jobs at once.
Uh-huh.
So the second job, I was a pharmacy technician. Right,
Oh yeah,
worked at the
yeah. I remember
pharmacy
that
for a
part.
couple
Yeah.
of months. So I was a waiter and a farm tech. Working two jobs at once. And after a couple of months of that, I was like, this is not something I want to do long term, right? Farm school's not in the picture anymore. And so I quit both. And my original plan then was to become a notary, right?
Yeah,
A mobile notary, a loan signing agent, just someone that walks people through loan documents and notarizes
sure.
them. And so that was my plan. Um, and then as I was doing that, I think it's only been like 3 months. And then I started looking into real estate seriously and then joined Sub 2. So it's a very short time frame from the time I quit both of those jobs uh, to when I, joined Sub 2.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's wild. So, yeah, the mobile notary thing is interesting. I know of a few real estate investors that use that as a kind of a side gig, um, and honestly, I think they use it more to to vet leads. They do a lot of. One guy does a lot of like trust documents and will documents,
Hmm.
right? And so now he knows like, oh, this person's got this and this, and like they're on their way. They're because most people, a lot of people don't have wills, or they're not doing their will until the last second. So you
Hmm.
literally use that as lead creation, which is a little bit morbid, but also kind of smart at the same time. You got to hand it to him. But he was using his notary service as that ability to kind of suss those situations out.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on here. I always enjoy talking to you. I love Sundays. I know I'm not there as often, like right. And it's never a good time to have accountability meetings. There's always someone that's going to be unable to attend. And on Sunday nights is right when I'm dropping my kids off at church. It's tough, like to get back and get situated, but I'm always in my car. But I love it every time. Enjoy talking to you guys. And yeah, man, let's do this again sometime.
I would love to. Michael, thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure. I would love to do this again.
Perfect. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Michael.